Okay, Fauzi, just be ready and monitor the WhatsApp. I will remove myself from the StreamYard.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and most welcome to the business analysis session. Allow me in the beginning to thank TDRA for this great opportunity to give you that great session. I hope it's a lot of benefit for you. So, again, I want to emphasize thanks to TDRA for this great opportunity for the session of TDRA, the business analysis. Allow me in the beginning to introduce myself. My name is Fauzia Yasmina, and I am an experienced professional trainer with 18 years experience in training and business consultancy specifically. And I do provide trainings in professional and business, lots of industries, across lots of industries. Also I do give consultancies to Masters of Science in Business and MBAs. Now, let us move to talk about this session. We have two main goals to achieve throughout the session. The first one, we want to learn the basics of the business analysis. And the second thing is we need to understand why business analysis is important and what is the role of business analysis. Now, to be able to do that, we will be basically covering 5 topics. The first one is the basics of business analysis, defining the business needs, the requirement management and benefit management, and finally the enterprise analysis, for which we will compare with the business analysis. So the first topic is the basics of business analysis. And here we have 2 points to cover: why business analysis is important and what is actually business analysis. Now, if you look at this picture, you can see a mess, a lot of mess. And can you imagine that this can be a work field? It is in certain situations. If we go step by step and think about it, at work, when we are involved in projects, in processes, and in implementing tasks, a lot of confusion happens if we don't have the correct, clear directions and clear, effective communication. This can be the result in the work field. So what is the problem? Why is it this? Or what is happening? We notice eventually that we do have a problem in the business. So what we do, we decide to sit in the table and discuss the problem, plan a great solution for that, and then implement the solution. Nevertheless, that seems really useful. It is in general, but is it enough? No, it's not. And by the way, this is when we start or we invest in the project management. Okay, but it's not enough. Why? Because we come to the table, we discuss the problem that we have, we plan a solution, we build that solution, we test it, it seems good, we implement, and then the results are ineffective. Simply and basically, the results don't solve the problem that we have in the beginning. And why is that? In order to know why, we need to look at statistics. Everybody trusts numbers. Now, numbers say, statistics about the project management say that more than half of the projects exceeds the cost that is estimated for them in the beginning. A lot of them, or actually we can speak about 16% of the projects are not completed on the time and on the budget. That is a huge number of projects or percent of projects that don't meet the budget and the timeline constraints that are set. And that incurs a lot of cost, that incurs a lot of frustration. And most of the times, as you can see, 1/3 of the projects are canceled before completion. Before we complete the project, we decide to cancel them because they seem to be heading out to nowhere direction, and they are not meeting, obviously, the results that we are desiring from them. And why is that? Again, we do invest in analysis and in statistics, and we find out that almost, as you see, 40 to 56% of our project conflicts or the problem that happen in our projects are traced to the requirement errors. So we sit on the table to plan a solution, but what the problem is obviously is that we don't know what the exact requirement is or what the exact requirements are. And then what happens eventually is that we invest a lot of time and a lot of money to find and fix the requirement errors, which is work and work again and correct the errors and then try to find out what's the best solution and so on and so forth, which consumes about 70 to 85% of the project cost and time. And this is why projects usually fail. So basically, you can brief it that it's a requirement error. That's why we don't head anywhere from projects. That's why most of the projects fail because of requirement errors. Well, what to do about that? Then it's very simple. We arrive to the big picture. Here, from plan, build, test, and implement, this was investment in the project management. This is what the project managers do. This is why we actually create the projects, in order to provide a solution. But before that, prior to that, we discovered after long-term study that we do need to do some analysis on the business to define and describe what the requirements, the exact requirements are. And this is what we call the business analysis. So briefly, the business analysis comes before the project management, where we define and analyze, understand, and produce the exact actual requirement to solve a problem or to arrive to a certain target or objective that the business desires to arrive to. That would lead us to what business analysis is. So, as we said briefly, business analysis, we need to analyze to understand the requirements. Then it is, and by the way, why, you might ask, why we need to understand and analyze the requirements? Well, simply because people don't state them. Stakeholders, whether it is the customer or the managers or the employees and the executives, they don't state and they're not able to diagnose what the exact requirement they have. So therefore, we as business analysts, we work as mediators, if you wish. We mediate among the stakeholders and analyze, communicate, and validate the requirements. Why? In order to recommend the necessary changes for the business process, the policies, and the information system. So, briefly, what we need to do is we need to understand the requirements by communicating with all the stakeholders, analyzing all the data that we have, and validating, confirming that those requirements we came up with and we understood are confirmed with what the clients or the stakeholders really look for. And based on that, we recommend the necessary solutions, whether it's in the process, a change in the process, or change in the business policy, or implementing certain information system or changes to information system already implemented. So in general, we understand now what is the importance of business analysis. The importance is because without business analysis, work is chaos. Most of our projects, they tend to fail. They don't meet the results, or they exceed the budget and the time allocated for them. Now, then that is fine. So it's defining the requirements, and prior to defining the requirements, we need to define the business needs. And here in this section, we will discuss what business needs are and how to define them. How do we define them as business analysts? So every company, every business is set, whether it's a government, corporate, or private sector, it is set for a certain vision, for a certain mission, for a big goal and over a long-term goal in the head of the creators of that company. And to achieve that goal, we have a process, we have operation in order to achieve goals and objectives that will lead us eventually to that vision. And we assemble all the teams in order to execute those objectives and those goals. Now, so what the needs are? The needs are those objectives and goals. So business needs are the objectives and goals that actually, and this is very important to note, that actually lead to achieve the vision from the business. So it is the big picture or the direction of the business, the goals that will lead us to the actual direction to where we have or we arrive to our goal, big goal. Now, how to define or identify the business needs? We might ask ourselves, isn't that clear and common sense? We can ask the creators of the business, we can ask the leaders of the business, we can ask the customer themselves what exactly their goals and their objectives are. That is theoretically fine, but as you can see here, what you get from a client's requirement is almost like a wishful thinking. It's a wish list, you know. They usually talk when you try to analyze the requirements or the business needs, when you are talking to the stakeholders, they usually have expressions, or they say what they think they need. They say what they think is good for them. They say what they think the problem is. But whether that is really accurate or not, it's not very necessary. Because what they would say, they would suggest some solutions. I believe that this solution would work the best for my business. They would talk about capabilities that they don't have. If only I have a stronger sales powers or stronger sales skills, then I would achieve more in my business. They talk about opportunities in the market that they think that will benefit their business and help them. They would talk about new technologies or technologies that are desired to be implemented and that will help eventually to achieve the overall goal. Now, all of that is not requirements, is not needs. They are just things that the stakeholder wishes to achieve. Just like when we go to a doctor with a certain illness or certain problem, health problem, we are not able to define exactly what we want, what kind of medication we want, or what the reasons to what we want are. We don't know that we have headache, but it is the job of the doctor or the business analyst in our case to define why this is happening, that problem or that desired solution or whatsoever, and how to achieve it. Okay, so therefore, because communicating straightforward with the stakeholders of the business will not get me a detailed or specific requirements. Therefore, I would need very much critical thinking, analysis, and insight. So we don't take the requirements clearly from the clients in general. We do have to dig, to think, to invest a lot of procedures, and there are specific set of let's say steps that we need to invest in and we need to apply in order to arrive eventually to accurate actual requirements or business needs. Now, how do we do it? As we said, there are steps, and mainly the 4 major steps is, first of all, what are the goals of the objectives of this business or this business area? What does this business want to achieve eventually? Then, what are the desired outcome? What does the stakeholder want to achieve from that business? What is the objective, the desired outcome, the result that they want? And what are the problems that are in the face of that outcome? What is the issue that is not allowing us to arrive to that desired outcome? And eventually we will need to answer those problems. We will need to suggest and recommend some procedures, as we said, in the policies, in the process, or in the technology of the business in order to arrive to that desired outcome and to solve those problems and achieve eventually the goals. So they are mainly 4 steps. The broad steps, of course, under every step, there is another set of steps that we need to implement in order to achieve. So the broad ones are the goals and objective definition, defining the desired outcomes, investigating and identifying the problems or the issues that need to be addressed in order to be able to arrive to the outcomes, and recommending the set of procedures or solutions that need to be implemented to achieve that. Now, we have discussed, or we spoke about what business analysis is and why it is important and how it evolved. And then we spoke about the business needs, which is the direction of the business and what the business wants to achieve and how to define that. Now we go to a bit more details where we talk about the requirement management. And the requirement management, here we will cover two things. The purpose of requirement management, why do we need to define the requirements and to manage them, not only to define them and to manage them to get through to the end. Also, how are we going to, or how do we in general as business analysts do that? How do we manage the requirements? So now that the illustration in front of you illustrates a lot or says a lot about why we need to do some requirement management. Now, usually in life, a customer comes to you or a stakeholder, the manager, the leader, the boss, the project manager, they come and they haven't had a certain product or service or result, an outcome that they want to achieve. However, they explain it in this way, as you see in the picture number 1, where you have a swing hanging down from a branch with 3 desks, okay? But this is not how the project leader understands it. This is how the project leader understands it. And then, of course, between these two pictures, these two images, there is a lot going on, which is, it goes from the project leader to the planner, how the planner plans it, and then to the designer, how they eventually design it, and then to the auditor and to the financial, and especially in the financial where a lot of reformation happens to the picture, and eventually it comes to the execution with this image, and this is how it is installed or executed. Nevertheless, what was in the head of the customer was just this: a tire hanging down from a branch to be used as a swing. So this is why, because requirements are not clear and not presented clearly in the head of the customer, the client, or the stakeholder, this is why we do need the business analysis. So if you can figure out, the business analysis job comes between these two lines, these two images, understands exactly the requirements of the stakeholders. Now, it is not a problem of misunderstanding by the project managers, by the way, because it's not the fault of the project management alone. The presenter himself or the stakeholder themselves, they are not always able to define what they exactly need in order to achieve the goal they want. They know they have a certain goal. They know they have a certain requirement that they think it helps them achieve the eventual overall goal. But is it true? Is it actual? Is it correct? Is it right? Did they present it correctly or not? So that is the job of the business analyst. And this is the job, this is where the business analyst jumps in and starts by defining their requirements and then managing them in order to arrive to exactly the image that is in the head of the stakeholder or the client. So you can think about it, when we are implementing the requirement management, that means simply and briefly why it is important. It means that by doing so, we are achieving the desired goals. So we are being effective and efficient. Of course, not only achieving the goals in the right way, because without business analysis, is it possible that we, under any circumstances, that we arrive to the solution? It might be. It's not necessary, but it might be. It happens in 16% of the project, as we said earlier. It might be possible, but it's going to cost a lot more time and a lot more cost in terms of budget than we expected. And a lot of the times we just quit the project and see that they are heading nowhere and not towards a resolution. So therefore, this is why the defining the requirements or managing the requirements throughout the process until the end is crucial and important. Now, how do we define the requirements? As we said, defining requirements means reading the data and analyzing it. So first of all, we said earlier that when we talk to stakeholders, what they are able to provide is what they understand and they sense and think is accurate and they think that they want. So what they give you eventually, well, if you can call it a wish list. This is what I think I want. This is what I believe is good. If only I have this capability. This is what you get at the end of the day from a stakeholder defining the requirements. And then what you need to do, you need to find them out exactly as they are and dig in them. Invest time and analysis in them. You need to analyze them in order to refine them in order to arrive at the end to a list of actual requirements that will achieve the goal that the stakeholder is seeking. So first we find the wish list, or the thought, what the customer thinks is the desired outcome. And then we analyze and refine that in order to arrive to the accurate, actual requirements. And then we record that requirements in documents, not only in one form. Now, the business analyst usually works across different departments, from financial to implementation to technical to HR to several departments. And different departments understand different kind of languages and forms. And therefore, it is the job of the business analyst to convey the exact requirements to everybody, to all the stakeholders. Therefore, eventually we would need to put in the list of data in different forms and in different ways and presentation styles, where sometimes it is just a mere language, or it's pure data and numbers. It might be illustrations. It might be something like images and or graphs or charts. It depends on the kind of the requirement and the addressed audience that we are sending the requirements to. And eventually, now I found out the list and I analyzed it and I came up with the action requirements. I recorded them, I documented them, and this is a very important outcome from the business analysis job. And then I need to validate them. To validate them means to confirm that these are the accurate results that or requirements that will result in the desired outcomes for the stakeholders. Okay, so they are basically 4 steps: finding out the desired wish list or requirements as stated by the client or the stakeholder, analyzing and refining them to arrive to actual requirements, then recording them in documents in different forms to make them understood for everybody across the departments, and then validate and confirm in order to confirm that these are the accurate requirements for the business. Now, usually this is done through so many tools and techniques. Mainly the business analyst has to put in mind a lot of questions and has to ask a lot of questions. What to be done, who to be doing it, why to be doing that, how to do it, where to be done, when to be done, and so on and so forth. Lots of questions need to be answered and analyzed in order to arrive to those requirements. So, after defining the requirements, okay, most of the job is done in the detailed job actually of the business analyst. But there is something which is a modern trend in the recent history or the recent markets in the business, which is the benefits management. Now, why do we need to know about why is the benefits management important, and what are the ingredients? What is in the benefits management? These are the 2 topics that we will discuss in a minute. First of all, why it's important? Very simply, if I ask you guys, which project manager would you hire? One who can deliver the benefits realization, who can realize the benefits you want, or the one who can only deliver the products? So, is it the manager who will arrive to the realization of the benefits, or the one that will deliver the products? To be honest, previously in the history, businesses used to think that whenever I have the product in the time and the cost, then I'm going to sell it, and so the benefits are going to be realized automatically. Today, it's not that accurate. And today there is a trend, and it's increasing over the day. So this is for the coming decade. We will see it increasing more and more. We will be looking to more, not the project manager, but a benefit manager more, where we focus on the benefits. I don't ask you to deliver as a project manager. I don't ask you to deliver a product. I ask you to deliver a benefit, to realize the benefit that I want and do it the way that it has to be done. So, what are the ingredients of benefit management? In order to do the benefit management, what do we need to know? First of all, what are the steps or the framework? There are several frameworks, by the way, but all of them, they share the four core disciplines. The first one is the identification of the benefits. In the beginning, we need to know what the benefits are, the opportunities there, the drivers to those opportunities, when and how to implement them, and so on. And then we need to analyze the benefit as a second step. Analyze it means to quantify it, to put it in numbers and quantities, and to analyze or to evaluate the relative costs of achieving this benefit versus the value that in order to be delivered. And then I analyze the benefits. Now I need to plan the realization, and that is to schedule when the benefits are going to come in or where they are expected to be realized on the life of their project. And what are the deliverables and enabling factors that will actualize the realization of those benefits. And eventually, I went throughout the project from the beginning, identified the benefits, analyzed them, and so their value, and then I planned their realization, and eventually we need to monitor and control the benefits. And that is for a long-term, more proactive, informed decision making, where I report how the benefits were realized and what the drivers were behind them, and what are the enabling factors that were behind those realizations of the benefits. And that will help eventually the business in general to be or to form more informed decision making. So the key or the main four disciplines for the benefit management is to the identification of the benefits. I need to identify the benefits. I need to analyze the benefits. I need to plan how to realize them. And eventually I need to monitor and control them and report on them, how they were realized and what the drivers were behind them. So now we go finally to the enterprise analysis. And that is, here we will talk about two main things, and what is the enterprise analysis and how to compare it with the business analysis. Then why enterprise analysis is important. So what is enterprise analysis? In the beginning, if you look at this diagram, we spoke about the business analysis, and this is how to make the operations better, how to optimize the current operation in order to achieve certain goals and objectives. And it has to do with the everyday production. It has to look at the everyday process and production in order to achieve those tactics, those goals, in order to achieve the eventual goals. Now, this is the business analysis area. Wider than that, in a higher level than that, is the enterprise analysis domain, where we look at the strategies behind the business. Why is the business there? What are the strategies to achieve those goals, the mission, the vision, the wide big picture of the goal? And how do we translate that strategy into, how to translate that goal into strategies and or that strategy into operations? Okay, so every goal, every business has a certain vision, a certain long-term goal, for which we create strategies, and then we need to create the operations that translate those strategies or that fulfills the strategies. So comparing business analysis to enterprise analysis, we would say that the enterprise analysis is a wider picture of the business, a higher level analysis, and it is a more long-term goals and a more long-term decision horizon. Now, why is it important? It is important, it is very important, first of all, to keep the business in the direction to achieve its eventual and overall goal, the mission. I mean, we need to always be on track to achieve the vision. And of course, it does reduce a lot the cost of the operations, which improves the efficiency, and it enhances the effectiveness of those operations. It gives you a higher return on the investment, definitely, because you are working efficiently and you are achieving effectiveness, and it reduces the workload and the service and increases the service efficiencies. It enhances the transparency in performance and in operations, people would know what they are doing and why they're doing it. Everybody in the company, in the business, has or have a clear idea of the direction and the overall goal that the business is trying to achieve. And it is a higher level of customer service and experience. So, because eventually, at the end of the day, every business looks at serving the customer in the best way ever. So when we are focusing on our strategies, that means we are providing a better or a higher level of customer service and customer experience. Now, before we go to the questions, let's wrap up. What we did today was mainly 5 topics. We spoke about the business analysis, what business analysis is and why it is important, because without business analysis, projects would fail because we don't have clear requirement, clear direction. And then we spoke about the business needs analysis, and we said it's important to show us what is required to be done, and we can do that through a process, certain steps and process. And then we moved to speak about the business, the requirement management. And we said it's important because only with requirement management we can identify the exact requirement that would achieve the goal for the stakeholder and will let us solve the problem or achieve the resolution that we are looking for. And then we spoke about the benefit management, and which is the trend nowadays and which is going to be increasingly more and more in trend in the coming decades. And that is, what we look for is, we don't want to merely achieve or fulfill a product, produce a product or a service. We do want to achieve and realize a certain benefit from what we are doing. And eventually, we spoke about the enterprise analysis and compared it with the business analysis. And we said that the enterprise analysis is somewhere a higher level analysis of the business analysis, where we look at the long-term goals, we look at the strategies of the business and how to transform them into operations. We look at the why of the business. Now, do we have any questions? Okay, that is a good question. Thank you, Nadine. So what would be the main skills for a business analyst? Mainly, as we said, it has to do very much with identifying the requirements. Then we need to have communication skills, very good communication skills. Also, we need to have analytical skills, critical thinking, problem-solving skills, as well as the data analysis skills. Any other questions? So what makes a good business analyst? What makes a good business analyst is specifically and definitely is the actual, precise and clear and complete. So it's actual, precise, clear and complete list of requirements that would achieve the goals, their desired goals and requirements. Thank you very much for the question, Nadine. Any other questions? There are actually business analysis are very highly recommended for startups, and they don't differ from the business analysis for the SMEs, and the forms are there. Or if I think you're asking about tools, and that would be it very much depends on what you're doing exactly. As we said, there are steps. The forms that the tools can differ. You have the CATO, where you identify the customers, you identify the transformation needed, you identify the environmental factors, you identify the social factors, the political factors. There is the fishbone, where you identify the reasons behind the problems existing. There is also the SWOT analysis, which is famous, and I think it's a common thing that everybody almost knows. So there are several tools, and I do, Angler, I thank you for this question. I do recommend highly that startups, more than any other company, invest time on the business analysis. It could be the leader himself who would invest in the business analysis science or the business analysis know-how and skills. Another question from Nadine. The tools, I answered that. It was Angler Hamad's question. Thank you, Nadine. Another question. Simple. The systems and apps. It's the same question as the tools, as we mentioned them. The apps are countless and endless, and the MS PMI, the PMI are very highly recommended, and the Microsoft PI also are recommended. So they are basically just like the tools. It's the same questions. And any other question? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining. And thanks again to TDRA for this lovely opportunity. And I hope it was beneficial. Thanks a lot.